Right, amazing. So that is live, and I'm gonna invite Neil to check in to see if he's got his. Alright, super organized this morning. Okay, cool. Let's see. I think Neil is in. Other camera. It's your window.
Nice. But
Such a like a FaceTime from your parents when they have the phone like too close to your face or something, where it's like the camera is just the opposite direction.
yeah, it's perfect. It's great. That's what you want. We want to make it that like autumn, October vibes before we start. Look at that. I mean, it's like the perfect cozy autumn.
It's like, oh, and here's my
Great.
garden. Oh, welcome to our live Q&A about fitness. Oh, look at the weather. It's really nice outside.
Okay.
Such a
I need to
conversation starter.
questions
All right,
that we
cool.
already have.
So, yes. So what people might not know is that we go on our calls every Monday, just you and I. And then we thought last week that we could just do it live and actually talk about fitness and nutrition and stuff. And it would be fun for everyone. So it's a little bit new for us, a little bit new for everyone. But I was thinking maybe we could just do like a quick little intro, because I know there's a lot of people from your channel that's tuning on and then some from mine. So for people that don't know us and what we do. So do you want to get started?
Good idea. Yeah. Um, sure. So I'm a personal trainer. I help people, I help vegans to lose fat and gain muscle just over a short period of time. I started helping people with their fitness journey in 2010 when I joined the army. And at that time, I was helping because we'd get tested for our fitness every like 2 or 3 months. And yeah, I made it a priority to make sure I came top of every race. So everywhere we went, I was kind of recognized for being good at fitness. And the instructors asked me to help some of the other guys that were actually failing the tests. So I'd take them out of my free time, show them how to run better. We'd do training. I'd just show them how I trained. And then they'd come back and not just pass the test, but beat some of the other lads as well. They were smashing it. And when I got out of the army, people were still asking me, how do you train? So I showed them just casually, how I trained, how I ate, and they were always blown away with what I'd show them. And that led me to take it a little bit more seriously. I got my license, worked in a gym, and then I realized that, no, I was actually COVID. COVID came, so I moved all of the clients online and realized I could get a much closer connection with them and much faster results. So now that's what's led me to where I am now, helping vegans to lose fat, build muscle, basically just get fitter over a short period of time, just 100 days. And that's where I'm at now. And yeah, so what about you? What's your intro to
Who are
me
you again?
personally?
That was amazing. Yes. So my name's Molly. I'm Swedish, live in Sweden. We are actually Scottish, live in Sweden. We're actually just an hour apart, but we do this long distance thing now. And I'm a food service dietitian. And quite similarly, like I finished my degree during the pandemic, or the last, yeah, I think first year of COVID, it was like 2020, and didn't really know what to do with my degree. I knew I wanted to help people with their nutrition, and I wanted to, in general, I was thinking working with like public health and that space. At that time, I just moved back from Australia, so I had this big plan. I was going to go out in like indigenous communities and teach them about why you should eat more vegetables. And I had this whole plan, and then yeah, I got back to Sweden, finished my degree. Pandemic hit, couldn't get back into Australia for another 3 years. By then, I didn't really have a reason to go back. So yeah, I was kind of lost when I had my degree. I was like, how do I help people here? Like people in Sweden are generally a lot healthier than in Australia, especially in the outback of Australia where I was living. So there was a little bit of a moment where I was like, okay, what now? And it's taken me quite a lot of years to get to this path where I'm on now, that I'm actually starting my nutritional coaching business and that's when we're on a similar path now. It took me a long time to figure out that this is what I wanted to do, or this is how I wanted to help people. My core sort of values in my niche is that I help people rebuild their relationship with food through evidence-based nutrition. Because when I was younger, that's why I struggled with having a very poor relationship to food, not knowing how to eat healthy, and often getting stuck in different fad diets. Like I did the keto diets, I did the detoxes, I did the, like lemon water thing. Like I've done it all before I actually learned about nutrition. I thought this is what it's gonna help me get healthier. And yeah, so I did a lot of weird stuff, a lot of things that don't really make sense. And so I understand why people do that today. So that's what I feel is my calling now. I want to help people build their relationship with food, because it's a relationship that we have for life. So we shouldn't take it for granted, and we need it, because if food is something that triggers anxiety every single day, that's something that's very hard to run away from. We do have to eat. So if every meal is a trigger, it's a really tough spot to be in. So that's where I sort of lay my focus in. And we know each other from the gym, like our old gym now, where I went to your group training class. What did you call it? Military boot camp? Or so was that what it was called back then? And it was
the military
in the
boot camp, yes.
winter. Yeah, and it was outside, and it was like snow everywhere, and there was no equipment, and it was just me and one other guy, Matt, that was running around in the snow and just doing whatever you told us to do, basically. Because you were just like full military style, and you were like, yeah, you're going to do this, and you're going to jump, and you're going to go around the tree, and then you're going to toss a snowball. And we're like, yep, we're just going to do whatever this man tells us. It's going to be fine. And that's when we started talking and became friends.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, enough about us. I think that's good. Shall we dive into these questions?
Yes, for sure. So we got in quite a few. If people that are tuning in live want to ask us questions now, there's like a little question box. That wasn't any language. A little question box in the corner, so you can just write questions there. Otherwise, we got in quite a few in, so we're just gonna like plow through the ones that we got in. And I decided to be a little bit organized, so I've sort of sorted them into different subjects. So we sort of got diet and nutrition. We've got a little bit on food guilt and food anxiety, and then we've got fitness, like fitness workouts, muscles, stuff. So diving right in, what are your thoughts on calorie counting? Do you want to start on this one?
You're kind of like breaking up sometimes. I don't always hear what you're. There's like some gaps or something. I'm not sure. I think it's the internet, or it's maybe just because we're live. But
yeah, because you're lagging a little bit as well. Or is it the audio, or is it the video as well?
Video as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the whole thing. I think it's because we're live, and you are as well a little bit. So if it's super hard to hear, then yeah.
Just what was the question again?
So what are your thoughts on calorie counting?
Is it just what are my thoughts on calorie counting?
Mm-hmm. As an approach to
fat loss. Yeah, I think it's important to set an understanding, or to get an understanding of calories, because unless you're eating less calories than you're burning, you're not going to lose weight, right? It's just as simple as that. And it's not always good to just simplify it down to that, but when you get down to the basics, that's it, right? Eat less than you're burning, right? And our measure for that is called calories. It's just a simple way to do it. It's for fuel, but it can be quite a big task. It's kind of daunting. It's tricky. It's boring. So learning ways how to make it easy, I think, is the answer. Definitely getting an app where you just put the food into the app, shows all of the calories. Learning how to calculate how many calories you're burning each day, which is complicated. It's never going to be precise. Okay, we always like to think roughly that, yeah, women are burning 2,000 calories a day for maintenance, and men's 2,500. Could be way more if you're training more. Could be less if you're very sedentary. And then using TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure, this basically tells you how many calories you should be burning. You roughly are with your weight and your age and your height, some other questions. There's a tool, a free tool online that you just plug it all in and it gives you the answer, and then you can eat slightly less calories than you're burning, right? So between 300 and 500 calories less than what it says it takes for maintenance. That's if you want to lose weight. But once you figure out how much, if you do that for literally 2 weeks, right? Just grizz it out, do the hard thing for 2 weeks, you start to understand how much food you can eat. You really understand what that feels like. And we don't generally eat more than sort of 20 meals. So you're eating the same meals. You understand the quantities. So you can let go of tracking after just a little bit of effort. And I think then it's much easier. And you know, you see after 2 weeks, you can start to see that you're getting results. So you know that you're doing the right thing, and just keep on doing that, right? Plug and play, just repeat that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the counting calories?
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's like for me personally, I hate calorie counting. And I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way. I don't disagree with it at all. And just like you said, if you want to lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit. Like that is a hard sign. Like that is the one thing that is weight loss. It is. And there's a few people saying like what gets measured gets improved. And I do agree with that. And I do agree with the concept of calorie counting. Like you said, it's not really about like weighing your food constantly or obsessing about your food. You can just sort of track for a few weeks, and then you can sort of find where you're roughly at. But like I said, for me, whenever I track calories, that gives me like anxiety tied to food. It has always sort of been the big trigger for me. And like I said, I can do it and it's fine. But I know that this is the same for a lot of people. And there is sort of the camp of, you know, like counting calories versus not counting calories. And I know that you can lose weight and be in a calorie deficit without counting calories. Like that is possible. So it's, yeah, like I said, it's two camps. It's not right or wrong. I think it's just about like what works for you. And especially if you do have triggers that are very close to calorie counting. And I've met a lot of people that have done sort of, you know, they've done the Slimming Wells, they've done the Weight Watchers. And for them, it just becomes this like big ball of guilt whenever they see calories. Like, oh, is this many calories in like a tablespoon of olive oil, for example? Like, oh, I can't have olive oil, you know? So like the whole like, how they view that food after knowing how many calories are in it. For me, like my approach, how I go about it is more about like really putting all your focus to having whole foods in your diet, focusing foods that will fill you up, keep you full and satisfied. And the thing is, when you put your focus from that, from just the numbers metrics to this whole thing of like, how can I best fuel my body for it to be working at its best, to be, you know, being able to do the workouts, to have energy throughout the day. When you put that focus, you do put yourself in a calorie deficit without necessarily like even thinking about it, because you're shifting that focus. But once again, like I know some other people that they find security in numbers, because they find security knowing where they're at exactly, to know that they're in a calorie deficit. Once again, I'm not saying like one is right and one is wrong. I'm just saying that there's two sides to it. And both works. And I think you just have to do it in the way that you feel is more comfortable for you, and that isn't triggering. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with that. But like I said, I see the point. Like I wish I could do calorie counting sometimes, because it is more accurate. Like especially if you want to lose weight when you're like really, how should you say? No, I don't want to say the word shred, but you know, when you're at a lower body weight and you just want to lose like that little bit extra fat or whatever for whatever reason. Like when I was going to Ibiza a few weeks back, I was like, I need to be in a calorie deficit. There's going to be like 100 fitness people and they're all going to go around in a bathing suit. I just need to lose like a little bit. But then I had strategies from that. So yeah, once again, it's two sides to it and both work. So just go with what works for you. And while I'm just going to, hold on. There we go.
New toy.
Not even sponsored.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Yes, sponsored.
so I think we covered that one. So okay, the next one. What do you think about what I eat in a day videos?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. I think this is related to content, really, just the idea of what's valuable content that's helpful for people and
Mm,
what's gonna get engagement. And it's quite difficult to balance that when you're trying to create a business. So you want to create content that's valuable, so but sometimes that content isn't very interesting. But what
mm,
we have seen is that these what I eat in a day can be very, very engaging. If there's some way to create like both the what I eat in a day engagement mixed with value, then I think that's fine. Like you're really showing people the truth about what you're eating, because quite a lot of the time these what I eat in a day can be they're just like showing the best, fun, most amazing foods, and it can be it feels sometimes it could be a little misleading, and I have to admit I'm guilty of it as well because I think like it's always fun to see the food that I buy in restaurants. Uh, as a vegan, I feel like there's some interest there because most people think that vegan means you're just going to eat salad, like the most sad salad that you can think of, just some lettuce and tomatoes. What the hell do vegans even eat? It's like just grass, right? So I think it's always interesting to see all of the amazing, like wonderful looking food that you can get. And if I just showed what I ate every day, it would be the most boring content. Nobody would ever watch it. It's literally just like the same meals on repeat week after week. And we have like a plan that we just a basic plan.
yeah.
Pasta on Monday, potatoes on Tuesday, lentils on Wednesday. Like it's literally that, and it's the same meal. Because I want to save time in the kitchen. I want to save time thinking about food. So yeah, that's why I wouldn't show what I eat every single day on an actual post like that, and only show like the fantastical, amazing food that I ate in London, for example. Yeah,
Mm.
to restaurants and these green breakfast wraps and things like that. Uh, so yeah, I mean they can be helpful. I think they're good and they're a good way to show that we can eat. Um, that we're not eating perfectly. It
Mm.
could be a good thing for it. Uh, yeah, that's basically my thoughts on it. I'm not that strong either way on it, to be fair, but
Mm.
I enjoy watching them sometimes.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I
What are your
think
thoughts?
yeah, I think I'm pretty much the same. Like when they started, I mean, they've started a few years ago and they've sort of always been there. And I think I like the idea of them because it's the same. Like if I want to learn how to do something, I like to have a reference point. Same thing when, like we're working out. Like when you teaching me stuff, like when we used to work out, it was like, uh, can you show me what this movement is supposed to look like? And I mean, like same in CrossFit. Like you go to a CrossFit class, you want to see the coach doing the movement. So I'm like, okay, now I know what it's supposed to look like. And so that's why I like the idea of what I eat in a day, because for somebody that is really struggling and not really sure, like what is, like that's a big question as well. What is a balanced meal? And like you said, it's about we're not perfect. Like, okay, this day I ate like this, and oh, look, I eat the same thing every day. It's really boring. Like, that's a good side to show. So I think the idea of what I eat in a day videos can be really helpful, but I think the problem is that the majority of them are not real. Like, that people will just sort of, oh, look how I eat so nice and healthy and clean. And, like we have no reference point to know that the person is even eating like that. Like, they're not showing everything on camera, or maybe they've just chosen like very nice, like advanced meal on that day because they're filming. So I think, yeah, like I said, the idea of it is great as a reference point, but I think unfortunately the reality is that most people just put themselves on a pedestal and they will just film the nice things that they're eating. And so I think, yeah, it's a little bit problematic in a day. And I know there's been a lot of like reaction videos to it, being like, we don't care what you're eating in a day. And I think there is a point to that, being like, okay, like if it's not helpful for anybody, where, you know, like the fitness influencer is like, oh, I start every morning of having 2 squeezes of lemon water and this like blah blah blah, these supplements that I'm sponsored by the way. Oh, look at discount code in my caption. You know, like there's so much to it, and I think in the end we don't know. We will never know if the person is actually eating like that. So I think there's like a lot of problematic things to it as well. So yeah, but like I enjoy watching what other people eat actually. Like that's just me personally.
Yeah,
And I like to showcase what I eat.
it's
So
fun.
I'm like, look, I have these leftovers and I could do this wrap and it looks cool. But then I also do enjoy like cooking, and I do enjoy creating meals, and I don't expect everybody to have the same amount of enjoyment. And I do see the clear benefits of having sort of similar meals, like you said, each and every day, because it's like routine. You don't have to spend like tons of energy and thinking, oh, what do we have to cook today? Because I have to make up a completely new meal. I can't repeat, you know, like I can't have the same thing today as I had last week. No, but it's like having your patterns, having your meals, go-tos, which is great. So yeah, there's 2 sides to it for sure. Okay, so here's a good one. Do you recommend getting like checking your hormones, vitals, or blood work to help diet and training?
So you cut off a little bit. I just heard hormones. Is
So
it
do you
checking the
recommend?
blood limit? I think you said.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly. Do you
saying this.
recommend getting your blood work checked to help diet and training?
Yeah. It's a funny one. I do think it's a good idea to get your blood checked. But saying that, I haven't done it. I think I'm
Same.
gonna do it
Exactly.
because I think it is important. I think it's a good thing to do, to just check and to make sure that yeah, everything's all right. But I've come across like a thing where if you go to the doctor and say, hey, I just want like a blood screen, they won't do it unless there's some specific reason. So if you're feeling some sort of symptoms or whatever, then they'll do it. But if you haven't got symptoms, they won't just do a general screen for whatever.
Yeah, you have to go private, I
But
think.
yeah, yeah. There's like I think there's good reason to do testosterone checks to see if you're low. I think it's something like I think it's like 1 in 4 men are low in testosterone after 30. It's quite high. And
Yeah, right.
checking that, or if you're not going to check it, then at least do things to improve it anyway, like get good sleep, have a resistance training program, get good nutritious food. You could even try, this is touching on another question that's later probably, but the supplements. Try there's certain supplements that you can try. I guess we can talk about that later. And yeah, I think doing that type of stuff is going to help. Same for women. I saw recently actually your guy James Smith was talking about, and I think it's a good point that women are prescribed antidepressants when their hormones drop or when their hormones change throughout their life. So if it could be like perimenopause or menopause, the estrogen, progesterone starts to drop. So instead of like giving some kind of hormone replacement therapy, they're just given antidepressants, which is I think it's kind of interesting idea. I don't really know. I only saw that post from James Smith, and yeah, I believe it's probably true. I think my mum was the same. She also was just given antidepressants. So it's like, yeah, definitely worth checking because it has a huge effect on your life, on your training, on everything really. So it's definitely something worth looking into.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I'm exactly the same. Like you said, yeah, I really recommend that you do. It's a great idea, but I don't do it.
I
It's
don't
like,
do
yeah,
it.
you should really go to therapy, but then you don't go to therapy. It's like one of them where it's like so much easier to give advice to other people. No, but I think there's another main point to this as well. It's like that no 2 people are going to be the exact same. So I mean, you would have 2 people following the exact same diet. They would have the exact same workout regime, and they could have completely different blood works. Like they could have completely different nutritional charts where like maybe one is more deficit in a vitamin than maybe the other person isn't. So I think there's always going to be a strong point to that as well. Like even if you're following a very healthy diet, maybe you as an individual might have struggled to absorb certain nutrients more than somebody else. You know, so like if you do want to get a super accurate chart of where you're at with your nutrition, yes, I would definitely recommend to go and get it checked. But like you said, it's not really something that I don't think that they don't offer anything in general. Like you would have to go to like a private clinic to have it done if you're not like ill. So if you just want it checked for the sake of it, yeah, you have to pay for it, which is obviously fine. But just keeping that in mind as well. I would, of course, go and recommend check it if you are experiencing something like, you know, like fatigue, low energy levels, irritability, like that is an indicators that you might be low in certain vitamins and minerals. I mean, like for women, for example, the symptoms of iron deficiency is irritability, lack of energy, and like I think nausea can be one of them. And it's like you can experience this from just like living life, you know, like you wouldn't, it's very few people that will be like, oh, I'm really tired now. It's like, yeah, because we're doing adult life is very tiring. Very few people that would go like, oh, maybe I'm just deficient in iron, actually, which most women are, so you should get iron supplements. We'll get to the supplement question as well. But yeah, so it's like if you really want to optimize, I think that's another point. If you really want to optimize your nutrition, your energy, like maybe you're going to go compete or, you know, like something like that, you really want to be at peak performance, then yes, getting your blood work checked could be a really good thing, because then you can see where am I at, like where I'm at with my nutrients, like where am I deficient in any micronutrients and so on. So yeah, it's go and get it checked. I haven't, but will advise other people.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is a big one. Well, not a big one, but good one. I know your answer. I have a lot of bullet points for this one, so you'll go first. Would you recommend a plant-based diet?
Oh, right, yeah, plant-based diet, right. Was that a question? Yeah. So that's a great question. The thing is, right, a plant-based diet is acceptable according to like the American Dietetics Association, one of the biggest bodies of nutrient experts in the world, nutrition experts in the world. They say it's a clear statement that they're in agreement that it's a perfectly viable option, a diet for everyone of all ages, including pregnant women, right? So at all ages. So if it's viable, if they are saying it's viable, and it's something that I've seen in my own life, that it's both. So I think anecdotal evidence for myself, and then also the data behind that, and then when you look into it, it's like then you see that there's no nutrients that you cannot get on a plant-based diet, especially when, again, we're talking about supplements a little bit early, but especially when you can supplement, you can just choose to supplement with something. The reason to go plant-based is a bit different. It's like, yeah, do you want to do it for health reasons? I think it is. I just think it is the most healthy diet to have. Because eating animal products or anything from animals, it causes an inflammatory effect, which your body has to deal with. And if it's dealing with that, then it can't deal with other things on top. But like that's not even the main reason why I would say it's a good idea to be plant-based. I would say vegan is the only moral imperative because of the suffering that's caused to animals. So from a dietary standpoint, if you can thrive, like for example, there are Olympic athletes who are vegan, then if you can perform at that highest level of athleticism on a vegan diet, then there's no reason not to do it, because then we're talking about it's a choice between, okay, harming animals or not. Right, as far as I can see, that's literally the choice. Every time that you choose a food item on the shelf, this one is directly causing animal suffering, and this one causes. I'm not going to pretend that
like crops and things like that don't cause some level of suffering to animals, but it's making a statement that you're trying to cause as less harm as possible rather than maximize the harm. So yeah, definitely would recommend going plant-based, not just for your health or even there's for an environment standpoint. There's a good argument to say that it's actually better for the environment, but also for the animals, like and mainly for the animals. That's why I would say to go vegan.
And that's a good
yeah,
point as well. Like the difference there in terminology is that technically plant-based is just referring to the diet, but it's the same as going vegan. But being vegan is for animal rights. So that would also come with other, what you say, lifestyle changes. So having anything to do with the harm of animals. So if you say that it's a plant-based diet, I think some people can get confused with that sometimes. If you eat a plant-based diet, yeah, it's the same as eating a vegan diet. So not having anything animal-based. So no dairy, no eggs, no meat, no fish, just plants. But being vegan is more about the ethnical standpoint and the belief of not harming animals, but that they follow the same diet. And I think you had some really good points. I've got my bulletins list here. I think I want to talk about 2 points when it comes to being on a plant-based diet. And one is for weight loss and one is for a healthier diet overall. And you sort of touched on that. Yes, you can have a healthy diet being on a completely plant-based diet. And in fact, being on a plant-based diet means in general that you are eating more nutrient-dense foods that are also lower in calories. So being on a plant-based diet is actually a solid weight loss strategy as well, because you're filling up on foods that, once again, keeps you full, keeps you satisfied, but they're lower in calories than animal-based products. So I mean, like, that's just the thing. Like, and as you have seen with your clients, right? Because most of them are following complete plant-based protein or mostly plant-based protein diets, and they're losing weight. They're seeing progress because, once again, putting them into a calorie deficit and being on a plant-based diet is a strategy from that. They will be in a calorie deficit because they're eating lower calorie foods.
I just watch with that, all right? So plant-based doesn't mean that you're eating whole foods and just plants and nutrient-dense foods, right? Plant-based just means that you're not eating animals or animal-based foods. So it's a kind of an interesting thing, right? So a whole grain plant-based, yeah, that's a different thing altogether. You can eat a very unhealthy, high-fat, highly processed plant-based diet, and so people just automatically assume if I go plant-based, I'm going to lose weight. And it's just a worthwhile consideration that actually that's not entirely true, right? There's plenty of mayonnaise and chocolate and cheese and fats, just like there's plenty of junk food out there that's vegan or plant-based, and you're gonna put on weight, right? So that's it's just a careful distinction, I think.
Sure, you can live on Oreos and still be vegan, and then not a very healthy diet. Yeah, so should we say, like, thought through, like, whole foods? Would you describe a whole grains plant-based diet?
Whole food plant-based. It's like this, like
whole food plant-based.
it's almost like a
mouthful.
subcategory movement to itself. Yeah, whole food plant-based.
Yeah, good.
Whole
food plant-based. Say that
like
fast 8 times. So that's what I'm referring to exactly. But thanks for pointing that out, clarifying. But yeah, so looking at this whole food plant-based diet, what you're all also doing, I mean, like, looking at the dietary recommendations, like you were sort of speaking about as well, we are recommended to limit our intake of, for example, saturated fats, which currently in the West we are getting too much of. And being on a whole food plant-based diet, you are limiting saturated fat because you're cutting out the biggest sources of saturated fat, which is dairy and red meat, right? And you're replacing them with plant foods and plant proteins. So just following that sort of diet, you're already sort of limiting your saturated fats, getting more of the healthier unsaturated fats. So that's one point. So yeah, like swapping saturated fats are found in meat and dairy, and you're getting more unsaturated fats that are in foods like avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds, to get more nutrients that way. So you're doing a good health fat swap there as well. And Oh yeah, I actually saw like an hour before we jumped on. I just saw like a news article that just popped up on my screen, and they've done a new research study in Sweden where they looked at, I think it was 1,800 kids that were 1.5 years old and 4 years old, and they were eating, and they saw that they were eating way too much red meat. They were above the recommendations, and they were eating way too little fruit and veg. It was like 9 out of 10 of these kids were eating too little fruit and veg, according to the recommendation for that age group. And that they're, yeah, in general, getting too high amounts of saturated fats in their diets. So that was like a whole, it was a bit of a flag thing. And I mean, like, we know that high amounts of saturated fats in your diet is linked to cardiovascular disease later in life. So seeing this in like such young kids as 1.5-year-olds and 4-year-olds, like, that's so young. They have too high amounts of saturated fats in their diet. So yes, of course, if you integrate more plant-based foods and whole foods into your diet, you're going to have like less saturated fats, you're going to have more nutrient dense foods, and you're going to have lower calorie foods. So it's sort of like, it's win-win. So even if you're not prepared to go full vegan for like, you know, animal rights and all of that, you can still have a more plant-based diet. And I think that's such a big discussion point on this area as well, that people think you have to be all or nothing. It's like, I'm either eating meat every single day and eating dairy every single day, or I go completely vegan. And I think there's such a big thing there where it's like, you could just eat more plant-based diet, you know? What are your thoughts on that? Actually, that's not on there, but that's a big subject as well, because that difference of going 100%, like you said, going vegan for the animals is always going to be 100%. But for people that are sort of like, I sort of want to get more plant-based option, but I'm not ready to go full vegan.
Yeah, so sure, right. There's a thing that a lot of people will say, like, I want to eat plant-based or I want to be vegan, but cheese or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, to those people, I would say, okay, go vegan except from the cheese.
Yeah.
Right? Just, okay, if that's what you want to do, then do that. That's fine, right? But if you really are serious about going plant-based and you want to do it 100%, then definitely watch Earthlings or watch Dominion on YouTube, because that will give you the motivation that you need to stay eating plant-based or eating vegan. Okay, I think that's like a definite thing that everyone should do anyway, to just watch that, because it feels like this is happening behind closed doors, and the level of violence that's happening towards animals is something that should be we should at least attempt to avoid it as much as possible rather than pay for it, because I don't think a lot of us would even agree with it. So if yeah, and also it's okay to be imperfect, right? Being plant-based or being vegan isn't about perfection, and if you mess up, then you're out the gang, you're out the club or something like that. It's like, you just do your absolute best to cause as little harm as possible, and yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. It's in this world, it's so easy to make mistakes. It's like yeah, you order some food and you say no cheese please, and then they bring it out and there's Parmigiano or something on it, right? And you just yeah, you have to deal with those situations as they arise. But just trying your best, I think, is a big start. It's all you have to just say is, yeah, okay, I'm going to do my best, and that's it. If you want to do it for your health, then great. I think sure, it's definitely gonna be better for your health. And making that decision, and then taking more steps along the way to just refine and make sure that it's better over time.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, and I think just you saying that, because I mean, like, you're 100% vegan, you're vegan full on, and it's just you saying that, like, we mess up, and I think it's so easy for people to think like, yeah, I'm gonna try and eat like plant-based, or I'm gonna stay vegan, but then you say, oh, but I ordered something and it had cheese on it, and there was a misunderstanding, and I ate it, and now it's all going out the window. I think that goes for all dieting in general, like this whole idea that we have to eat 100% perfect, otherwise we might as well not bother. So we will eat 100% perfect, and then there will be a one thing, like we do a takeaway lunch or we have chocolate in the afternoon, and then it's sort of like, well, I might as well now, and you just gorge on everything that you're like, you just let everything go. I like the analogy in this, that it's like if you would be in your car and you get a flat tire, you wouldn't go out and stab the remaining 3 tires, would you? But for some reason, that's what we do with our diet. That we have one thing where we feel like, oh, I've thrown my whole diet out the window now, so I might as well just eat whatever I want. Or it's like, I'll just restart the diet on Monday and, you know, like just do whatever I want over the weekend. And I think it's like getting into that mindset of, yes, we're not perfect and it's not about being perfect. I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm going to work on strategies to get back onto the horse if I feel like I've slipped or whatever. But like, we're going to slip. We're going to make mistakes. That's going to happen.
Yeah. Sometimes like the mistake can show you that it's not just like that. It's a one-off mistake. Like, whoops, I accidentally, you know, I bought some chocolate in the evening because I was freaking starving and nothing could get in my way of buying that chocolate. That's usually a sign that you're just not eating enough calories. And it can be, okay, so how do we solve that? How do we know how many calories you're eating? Yeah, record them. And then you can see, okay, then, yeah, you're eating far too little calories. And every day it's getting harder and harder till it leads to breaking point. So the mistake isn't that you went to buy chocolate. The mistake is that you were eating far too little calories day after day. And it can be solved with tracking. I think that's
exactly. The preventive
that's an
work, where
important
it's like,
thing.
yeah, why did you end up here? Like, how did you get to this point? And you shouldn't have to be in a place where your whole afternoon and evening is just about willpower fighting cravings. Like, that isn't where you should be. That isn't healthy eating. Then we got to look at what you're eating before that, because something's up. You shouldn't have to be in that state where you're just like relying on willpower to be healthy. Then it's something wrong. Then we got to look at the groundworks. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I'm just aware of time, so I'm just looking through the questions we got left. Let's see. We touched on supplements, so should we do that one? What supplements,
I don't know.
if any?
I feel like I feel we should do the other one with a talking about guilty foods.
Oh
And
yes,
feeling guilty.
yes, yeah. Let's do that one. Okay, so the question is, how do I stop feeling guilty after eating certain foods?
And I think you should start with that one because this is something that you've dealt with yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is it's a very hard subject to touch on, and it's obviously going to be a different story for everybody. Like I said, I've talked to so many, especially women, that have been through like diet after diet. Like I said before, they've done the Slimming Worlds, they've done the Weight Watchers, they've done the keto, they've done this and this and this, and all that they've been through is just going on a diet where somebody's telling them what to do, and sometimes for how long, and that's it. That's all they're getting, right? So they're not learning about they're not learning about nutrition. They're not learning how to eat healthy. They're not learning the why behind food choices. And I think that's one of the biggest lacking things out there. That's like, yeah, I'm just going on this new diet and I'm going to lose weight, rah, rah, rah. And it's just like, oh yeah, just eat this. If you mash a banana, it's terrible. Like Slimming World says, you can't have a mashed banana, then it's really bad. But if you have a whole banana, it's great. Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's no logic in a lot of these diets and how they're conducted. It's just like something where somebody's giving somebody a directive and that's it. So that's why I try to like work with people that I talk to. It's like, when you hear a health statement or it's like a rule or a diet, whatever, like always ask the question, why? Like, you know, there's so many influencers that don't actually have any educational background that will just go online and they will just say something. They're like, oh, apple cider vinegar is great for weight loss. Why? What are the mechanisms? Like, what? Tell me why apple cider vinegar is good for fat loss. It's not, by the way. You know, like, just by asking that simple question, it doesn't mean that you have to have a nutritional degree and know about like how metabolism works or how the body works, but like just by asking that simple question, why? Very few people are going to be able to have a comeback for that. But yeah, coming back to food guilt and having like security in food choices, my approach has always been, and that's what worked for me, actually learning about nutrition, learning what is healthy and why. And like I said, it doesn't mean that you have to go to uni for 3 years like I did, but it just means having a basic understanding about the very basis of nutrition, learning about protein, learning about carbs, learning about fat, what are the things I need to know about these different macronutrients goes such a long way. And if you have those tools with you, those are things you will use for the rest of your life. It's not another diet where it's like, yeah, I have these rules and they work. No, it's about learning why you want to get certain foods, why you want to get less of others, and be okay with that. And once again, like you said, it's not about being perfect. It's like, oh, I can never have like this food because it has saturated fats. No, it's just about like knowing what food you should limit, what you should try to get more of, and not putting any guilt to that. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just food, and we got to learn about the nutritional qualities of each, and that brings food security over time, because then we know, like, yes, I can enjoy this ice cream or whatever because I know that 80% of my diet is whole foods, 80% of my diet is getting healthy, getting nutrients in my body, and the rest of the 20% are foods that we can actually enjoy, and we know there is space for that food and being able to enjoy foods that we love. So yeah, that's where I'm with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good one because guilt can happen even outside of logic. So you know that you're allowed to eat certain foods, but you still end up feeling guilty for eating them. And it can be, I think, linked a little bit to addiction.
Yeah,
so I have a lot of experience with addiction. And I obviously addicted to smoking weed and other drugs as well, just mind-altering drugs. Alcohol, yeah, so defining alcoholism is a funny one. So a lot of people think that alcoholics is like, you can't go a day without drinking it, and you got to drink it first thing in the morning and be one of these guys. But I would define it as having this inability to turn off the I want another drink setting. So you start one, it's like if I have one drink, I just wouldn't be able to just stop at that. I would always have another, convince other people, let's drink, and we have more. And that tendency can also go into food. So often when there's chocolate, I find when I've just not eaten enough during the day, my chocolate addiction is rampant, and I'll end up not just eating one or two blocks. Like, for example, my wife will. I don't think she has that in her, so she'll have one and be totally fine. Like, put it away, forget about it. I can't stop thinking about it. I know it's in the cupboard. I know how many pieces there are, and I just will run to it if I'm not eating enough, and I'll eat the whole bar. I've done some crazy stuff with this addiction, so I'll eat a whole bar of her chocolate and go to the shop, replace it, and then if she's not back in time, I'll eat that one too, and I'll go to the shop again and replace it, and so it's just got this. And then when she comes back, I'll always tell her, because I think that's a part of it, like to talk about it, not from a guilt standpoint, but just from openness and honesty type standpoint. So will I feel guilty about eating some types of food sometimes? I think what you said before about understanding nutrition, it's really helpful, because I can still say, like, yeah, well, I did that, and look at it from more of a logical standpoint. Why did I do that? It's because I didn't eat enough during the day. So I'll just eat better during the day tomorrow, and yeah, so be it. But that's taken a lot of self-work, and I think if you're feeling guilt around food, then it's time to sit down and really have a think about yourself, where you are right now. Do you need help? Do you need to look into what is proper nutrition? How many calories are you eating every day? Right? Because all of that stuff can lead to more guilt around food. Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely more information and learning about it can help. And if not, then there's certain groups that can help too. So there's something called OA, Overeaters Anonymous. So even if you think that you're not an overeater, this type of group can help because you will feel there will be a community of people there who are going through the exact same problems that you are, and they're finding ways to overcome them. So check them out online. There's millions of thousands of online meetings, and you can just search OA meetings, and there will be one around about the right time that you want, because they're online, so you can just jump on anytime. So that's why I think about guilt around food. But you, how did you overcome your guilt? Because I believe that's something that is that, am I right? Did you suffer from something like that?
Yeah, for sure. Like for me, that was one of the biggest part. Like I love that you touched on that as well, and I think that's when coaching comes in, right? It's like there's two parts of this. There is, like, for me, it's when I started really fixing my relationship with food. And that's another thing, I didn't know how messed up my relationship was with food until I started learning about nutrition. Like for me, that was very much linked when I started uni and I started actually learning about like evidence-based nutrition. That's for me when it started to really turn in my head. I was like, oh, hold on, I've been having this very distorted relationship to food because I thought this was healthy. I thought this was normal. Like, and another thing that comes into that is overcompensating behaviors. So I look back now when I was younger and I was like, I used exercise. Like when I was younger, before I actually enjoyed exercise, that was purely a compensating behavior for me. Like exercise was something you did the day after you'd have a binge, or like the day after I felt like I overate. Oh, I had to go to the gym. Oh, I have to go on a walk. Like some nights after we've been to the pub and like, I don't know, drinking drinks all night, I was up in the morning and I was like, oh, I got a power walk for an hour and a half now. Like first thing in the morning. Obviously I was like 18 and I didn't get hungovers, but it's like that sort of behaviors. Back then I thought it was normal. And that's such a big part of it. And it's not until I actually started learning about how the body actually works, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And that for me did bring a lot of security. But then what you touched on as well, another part of that is such a big part of like self-work, in a way, of being able to see, for one, see patterns that you get stuck in, and secondly, being able to sort of almost like sit down with yourself. Would you agree that you say that? Sit down with yourself and be like, talk to yourself in a tone of voice that isn't judgmental. That's such another big part. Like I was working with one of my clients on this, where she said like if she felt like she had done something wrong, like in her world then it was like eating too much, or even for her it's like, oh, if I lost my temper with my daughter, like I felt like a bad mom, I had to overcompensate the next day. And overcompensating for me was like, I'm not going to eat. And she described it like she had this angry person inside her that just whenever she looked at food would go, no. That was her inner voice. That was her talking to herself, be like, no, you were a bad mom yesterday. So you're not allowed to eat breakfast, and then you go into lunch, and then you go into the snacks. And then in the evening, she would have dinner and she would overeat because she hadn't eaten all day. Like, I'm just telling the story because this is such a common pattern. It's nothing to be ashamed about, but it really comes down to that core question, like, how do we speak to ourselves? What's the voice in your head after something like, oh, yeah, I feel like I overate. Okay, so then what happens? For most people, and like when I was younger, I would go like, yeah, I just won't eat tomorrow, and that will make up for it. That's normal. Like that's what you should do. And that is what creates this distorted relationship with food. That food is guilt. That food is bad. If I overeat, I have to do this to make it okay. So getting stuck in that sort of behavior is what can be so detrimental to how you view food. And yeah, so I think it just starts with that dialogue. Like if you overate, if you feel like we talked about before, if you feel like you overate, you had chocolate, whatever, first of all, ask yourself, okay, what could I have done during the day? Like what happened? What actually happened? Did I eat too little? Yeah, probably. If I had really strong cravings later in the day. Okay, what can we do tomorrow to make that better? Eat more regular, eat more wholesome food, like looking at strategies. But that one thing, how do you speak to yourself in that situation? Because if you're guilty and you're like scolding yourself like you would scold a child who just messed up, that's the relationship, that's the dynamics that's going to happen. So yeah, and like I said, that's when coaching comes in. How do we create a calm voice to talk to ourselves? How do we create an inner dialogue that is actually kind and also will help us to make better choices, and not just, it's a parent style, but like with ourselves, isn't it? It's like, how do you speak to a child when they messed up? You just yell at them, they're just going to get upset, and they'll probably do the same thing because they don't understand what happened.
Yeah, I love that. I think that talking to yourself is the way that you talk to yourself is super important, especially when it comes to
Mm.
guilt and shame and that sort of stuff. That's like absolutely key. Be kind to yourself. Sit down and be quiet. Try to find a room where there's no noise, no music, no distractions, no YouTube, no Instagram, and just sit there and think and listen to how you're talking to yourself, and then start to reprogram that and to be more kind. Yeah. Talk to yourself the way that you would talk to somebody else's child.
Mm.
Hey, it's okay. Oh, don't worry about it. Like they
Yeah,
fell
and
over and they cut their knee.
it's
You're not going to
okay.
shout at them and be like, "Hey, idiot, what have you done? You've fallen over." Hey, say, hey, it's all right. These things happen. You fall over. We broke stuff. It's okay. We can, we can fix it, and we'll do better next time. It's a lesson. We've learned it. Uh, Absolutely awesome. I think we're about time now anyway. So should we just wrap up and yeah,
Yes,
say
we
some last
should
final thoughts?
wrap up. I'm just looking if there was anything that was like, uh, we'll
Super
have to save
important.
them for next time, I think.
Yeah,
That's
we've
it.
got loads of questions that we didn't answer, loads of fake questions that we asked ourselves. There's but I think we got through all the real questions, which I quite like, the ones that people actually ask. So, um, but it's good because I mean, hardly any questions, but
Mm,
lots of value there. So if anybody, if you start to think of a question and it's burning, you're like, okay, I relate to that guilt or whatever shame, then send us a DM and get in touch
mm.
because we'll offer the value, but then it could be also something that we talk about on another live. I think it was quite valuable to do this,
Yeah,
and I'd definitely be keen to do it again.
for sure. We will. We will. So as a closing thing, do you want to do a shameless plug? What do you got going on at the moment? What are you doing?
Oh yeah, I've been working on a book for six years now. It's just about the book's not out yet. I just listened to the Hormozy podcast again, and he's like, that was his thing. It was like this was how they finished up. Like, what have you got going on right now? He's like, oh, I just finished my third book, but this was the one that I started with because it's most important. So I had to go. Yeah, it was a whole
Mm.
thing. Um, no, yeah, you can follow me on here on Instagram. So that's the main place where I'm at right now. I've not expanded too far into YouTube, but it's coming.
Mm.
And yeah, if you want to get in touch, talk about your experience, then definitely just send me a DM,
Yeah.
and I'll be in touch even within the day. What about you? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, same. DM is a good way. At the moment, I've got my email series up finally, which is very exciting. So that's another way to just give, like, it's completely free. It's no commitment to do anything. It's literally, I've just tried to summarize what I've talked about before, like the basic of nutrition, like actually learning about nutrition, how food works, and all this. I've summarized that in 30 days in an email series, which means that every day for 30 days, if you sign up to this, you'll get an email from me teaching you a little bit about nutrition. So it's not to be overwhelming, it's not to give you too much information to blow your head up. It's just something where you can sort of get a little bit of a golden nugget every day and learn a little bit more about nutrition. So I've got that going. There's a link in my bio, or you can just DM me the word fuel and you will get a link through that as well. So that's one way to get in touch. But I think that's another point as well, that I think most people are a little bit hesitant to reaching out to coaches and entrepreneurs in the fitness space because thinking that it has to be like a bit of a commitment to like buy into. Yes, we do have paid products, that's how we make a living, right? Like we have paid clients, we have paid programs, but just because you want to get in touch with us doesn't mean that you have to commit to everything. Like just starting a conversation is very valuable for us as well, right? So like just getting in touch with you, hearing your problems and see if there's anything we can do to help you, I think is a very valid point. And like I said, there's no commitment to like buy into becoming like coaching client just because we have a conversation. So I think there's a big sort of like wall there for a lot of people to just reach out, but it's just us sitting on our Instagram, we're having honest conversations with people, and that's it. So if you do have anything that you want to talk about, anything that you felt like, okay, yeah, this really resonated that you guys talked about, this is me. Like, just reach out. We love to hear from you. So yeah, just want to finish on that point as well.
Totally, totally. All right, yeah, it's been fun. It's been emotional.
Yeah.
Let's,
Same
call
on
it a day,
Monday.
wrap up. Yeah.
For sure. And
Yeah,
thanks
it's
for
been a
everyone
good
who
one.
tuned in and sent any questions. And yeah, we'll do it again soon.
Cheers, Molly. Speak to you
Okay.
later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.